Waveman here with a little Ground Forces closed beta, or perhaps it is a semi-open beta since a lot of people got invitations. I got one recently, and then a lot of people could get into this through the event a few days later. In any event, we're looking at the Stug Ausf A, tank destroyer or self-propelled artillery, however you want to describe it. I did a little research and found that the Stug Ausf A was the first production version of the Stug 3 assault gun, designed and provided to the German infantry with a fully armored mobile artillery gun. It was developed in 1936 when Daimler-Benz was given a contract to develop an armored vehicle capable of carrying a 75mm short-barreled gun capable of being elevated to at least 25 degrees above horizontal, fully armored, though the original design called for an open roof, in the vehicle no higher than a standing man. The Zero series of 5 vehicles based on the Panzer III Ausf V chassis was built in 1937 through 1938. These experimental vehicles had soft steel, superstructure, and a fixed gun. They were used to carry out a program of tests before being used as training vehicles. When it was originally produced, this vehicle was known as the Stug. Only after the appearance of the Sturmpanzer IV, also known as the Stug 4, and based on the Panzer IV early in 1943, did the early weapon become known as the Stug 3. The production version of the Stug 3A was based on the chassis of the Panzer III Ausf F, and shared the same suspension and basic hull and very slightly modified transmission to make room for its low sling gun. The turret and original superstructure was replaced by a rectangular fighting compartment with its front in the same position of that of the normal superstructure. On the Ausf A, the sides of the new superstructure were level with the sides of the hull, leaving the track guards clear. An armored pannier was carried on the left track guard. The square sides of the superstructure were hidden beneath 8mm thick armor plate sloped at 30 degrees. The maximum elevation of the gun was only 20 degrees, which was 5 degrees below the original target. The gun itself was very similar to the 75mm L-24 gun carried on the early models of the Panzer IV. As to the armor, the Stug Ausf A had thicker front and rear armor than the standard Panzer III, which only had 30mm front armor and 21mm rear armor. By contrast, the Stug was given 50mm of frontal armor and 30mm of rear armor. It had the same armor, that is 30mm, on the sides as did the Panzer. Just like the Panzer III, the crew of the Stug consisted of a commander, a loader, and a gunner. However, the visibility in the Stug was very poor. The driver had a fixed vision slit to his left, but nothing to his right. His main view came from a visor in the front wall of the superstructure, but if the vehicle was under fire, then that had to be closed up, and the driver's only forward view would come from the twin periscope. The commander had a scissor periscope that could only be used if the hatch was open, while the gunner had to rely on a periscopic gun sight. In addition, the commander's seat was spring-loaded and could be raised to allow his head to poke out above the superstructure roof. Power for the Stug was provided by the Maybach HL-120 TRM 12-cylinder petrol engine at the rear of the Stug, with the drive wheels at the front. The first Stug was issued in February of 1940, and 24 were in service by the end of May. They took part in the fighting in France in May and June of 1940.
It serves him right.
So that's a little history. The question then becomes, how does the Stug Ausf A perform in War Thunder? Well, my personal assessment is that the Stug A performs very well. I believe it has thicker armor than any other vehicle at Tier 1, and the gun is capable of penetrating any vehicle, including another Stug A. Since the Stug doesn't have a turret, you want to engage it more of a sniping role than an up-close role, because there's always the risk of getting flanked and then you can't move your gun to bear. And as you will see in a later realistic battle, that's precisely what happens to me.
It serves him right.
Otherwise, I found the maneuverability to be pretty good. It traversed at a decent speed and turn rate. Reloading rate was pretty good with the Stug Ausf A, even without any crew points. I think I had barely any crew points in this battle. One of the other advantages of the Stug Ausf A is that it has a very low profile, which obviously, from the history, that was intended by the designers.
Yes, a hit.
So the Ausf A performed well in arcade battles, and I wanted to see how it would perform in realistic battles. So I took her out for a spin.
Yes, a hit. Target. Loaded. Loading progress. Yes, sir. Ready. Ready up. Ready.
forces have captured a zone. It serves him right.
Looting progress! Ready!
A little more effort, and victory will be ours.
Ready to fire!
Got him!
The gun's reloaded!
So just as in arcade battles, I was pleased with the performance of the Stug A in realistic battles. That is all for now. Waveman signing off, and I hope you enjoyed the video.